Trump media doubles down on Bitcoin. Is this just noise or a calculated move ahead of a major event? Meanwhile, the White House quietly confirms their plan to accumulate more Bitcoin. What does this mean in the global landscape? And Jerome Powell is set to step down. Who's going to replace him? And what does that mean for the economy? And a massive crypto player just drops a $1 million Bitcoin prediction by 2030. Is this hopium or hard data? And Strategy decides to play defense. What does their newest move really mean? And finally, Bitcoin's been stuck in no man's land for weeks on end. What's holding it back? And is the next breakout right around the corner? All of this and more on Around the Block, the crypto news show that keeps you up to date on the most important macro news in crypto. Trump media announced just today a 451 Bitcoin buy worth over $40 million. What are they doing here? The Trumps continue to show a very strong conviction in Bitcoin and the future. This is the sitting president of the United States accumulating Bitcoin, and 40 million just scratches the surface. Since everything is public in crypto, we can look on-chain to see how much they're actually holding. And right now, they are currently holding over 11,500 Bitcoin worth over $1 billion. Now, politics aside, if the sitting president is investing over $1 billion in Bitcoin, do you think he has a vested interest in the price going up? And unlike regular people who purchase an asset, he actually has the ability to influence the price. You have to understand that when the president purchases Bitcoin and has the ability to influence the price, he is most likely going to have his own self-interest in mind. And that, my friends, is a major reason to be bullish on Bitcoin. And it's not just the president's private company of Trump Media. It's also the White House, who has officially confirmed their plan to accumulate more Bitcoin. Now, they've previously already outlined they would use budget-neutral strategies to accumulate more Bitcoin, but we haven't seen that happen quite yet. What we've seen them do so far is keep their promise to not sell any of the confiscated Bitcoin that the US government has. But if they plan to accumulate more Bitcoin in a budget-neutral way, that starts an arms race between countries all over the world. Remember, Bitcoin is finite, so if a major worldwide power like the United States begins to accumulate, I believe that's going to set off a chain reaction in which countries all over the world FOMO in and try to accumulate as well. And one of the things they're likely waiting for is more regulatory clarity. Although they basically make the rules, it's important that their strategy makes sense from a legal level. And one of the last hurdles that many big institutions and governments are waiting for is the crypto structure bill. And in this clip, SEC Chair Atkins talks about how he believes this is very close to passing.
Now, there's a market structure bill that's going through, the Clarity Act that was passed by the House. And so that we'll see where that goes in Congress. And so I'm hoping that they'll be able to get that through. But in the meantime, we in the CFTC will be, and already are, actively working on harmonizing our two systems.
Of course, he can't come out and say, I know this is going to pass, because there's votes on both sides. But the prevailing wisdom is that this is going to pass, and it's going to pass in January. So the question is the big money sitting on the sidelines waiting for this moment to strike? And another piece of key news is that Jerome Powell is set to step down next year. Trump has been very outspoken in his hatred of Powell and how he refuses to cut interest rates as deeply or as quickly as Trump would like. I have no doubt the next person that goes into power into that position is going to be someone that wants to cut rates quickly and aggressively and will be very bullish on crypto and the crypto ecosystem. And the news just broke that Trump could announce the next chair as early as the first week of January. Right now on Polymarket, we've got a former Coinbase advisor, Kevin Hassett, at a 61% chance, according to Polymarket, to get the job. Polymarket is a predictive market if you're not familiar with it, and it has been repeatedly more accurate than any pollster or any other data you can gather on what's actually going to happen. And in a recent interview, Kevin was very clear on what he believes needs to happen in terms of rates. He wants them to come down and come down aggressively. When rates drop, typically risk assets rise in price because money can be borrowed for cheaper and people are more willing to borrow that money and deploy capital into risk assets. This is one of the many bullish catalysts in the upcoming year for crypto. Now, although many of the OGs out there believe the 4-year cycle has played out exactly and we are heading into the bear market, there is a chart that's been circulating around showing the 4-year halving lined up perfectly with the business cycle. And right now, we're about to enter the next phase of the business cycle, which means that if it wasn't really the 4-year halving causing the price rally and it was the business cycle, we could see an extremely bullish Q1 and Q2 of 2026 for Bitcoin and crypto in general. The ISM is sitting under 50, and historically, we need to break 50 and move upward to get that bull run in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrency in general. Will this happen in 2026, or is this really the bear market? That is the question that is on everyone's mind. So if you're enjoying this episode and you're ready to take your crypto education journey to the next level, then I invite you to schedule a call with me or my team. We help accredited investors and business leaders master the world of crypto so they can earn yield on their assets that Wall Street couldn't dream of while creating a wealth protection plan. All you have to do is scroll down below and schedule a call with me or my team, or we'll see if you're a good fit for the program. Inside the program, we have some of the most successful business leaders on the planet, including people who have sold their businesses for tens of millions of dollars. This is your chance to make the next year different. Stop saying, I wish I got in early, because you still have the opportunity right now. And with that said, let's get back to the video. And here's one of the most powerful people in crypto who obviously believes the bull market is not over. Now, he's not talking about the super short time horizon, but he's talking about a 4-year vision in which Bitcoin crosses $1 million per coin by 2030. That's more than a 10x from here in just the next 4 years. Let's listen in for a second to hear it right from his mouth.
The rough idea I have in my head is like we'll see $1 million Bitcoin by 2030. And there's high error bars around these things, but just to give you a couple of data points, right? It's like we're starting to see regulatory clarity emerge in the United States, which I think is a bellwether for the rest of the G20. You have the Genius Act passed now for stablecoins, but this market structure bill is being debated in the Senate. Fingers crossed something could happen by the end of this year. That would be a huge milestone. The United States government now has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So that is, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, that would have been kind of like vision board, and someone would have said, you're crazy, like the United States government's not going to officially hold Bitcoin. But if they do that, which there's now an executive order to do, I think a bunch of other countries are going to do that.
This goes back to exactly what I was saying before, which is that as governments enter the Bitcoin space, the price will skyrocket. The reality is there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and right now, big institutions are buying way more than the supply. The only reason the price has continued to sink down, in my opinion, is because the OG whales are selling, believing in the 4-year cycle, as well as pressure to keep the price low while the big money accumulates in the background. You see, big money is too smart to buy at all-time highs. They do not suffer from FOMO like the rest of the retail investors do. They want to be sure before they make a move, and when they go into something, they go in big. They move with size, and they typically move in unison. I believe behind closed doors, there's a lot of discussion and accumulation happening. Many of the big players are likely waiting for the crypto structure bill to pass before they go all in. But as I've said, if the United States starts buying, the rest of the countries will follow suit, which could be so much buying pressure that it would send the price upwards of $1 million. Now, personally, I do believe we'll see $1 million Bitcoin. I might not be quite as bullish as Brian Armstrong. I think we're more in like the 2035 range, but hopefully I'm wrong and we get there much sooner than I expect. Now let's talk about the ultimate Bitcoin bull, Michael Saylor, who owns Strategy. Strategy has been one of the best performing stocks in the past 5 years, until recently when it crashed by nearly 60% as the Bitcoin price sank lower and lower towards their average buy. There's been a tremendous amount of FUD around Strategy, so Strategy has decided to combat that by building a war chest of a cash reserve. You see, Strategy sells a variety of financial instruments that pay a high dividend. So the fear became, if the Bitcoin price sinks lower, they will not be able to pay those dividends. They'll be forced to sell their Bitcoin, which would drive the price lower. So to quell that fear, Strategy recently announced $1.4 billion in cash reserves, which would give them years of paying dividends without having to sell a single Bitcoin. Then today, they announced another $748 million in cash reserves, making the total about $2.19 billion. This gives them over a 3-year runway where they do not have to sell a single Bitcoin. And they've explained in great detail, Bitcoin's price only needs to go up 1% per year and they can pay the dividends forever. You see, this is critically important because strategy is trying to change the game. And this post from Crypto Rover does a great job of explaining what they did and why they did it. You see, they have some convertible debt, but it won't mature till 2028. The interest rate is under half a percentage point. So as I've described, they now have enough cash to pay out the dividends required for over 3 years without selling a single Bitcoin. Saylor is really playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. I'm sure he hates having to sit on cash that's losing 7 to 10% of its value every year. But if this gives investors the clarity and confidence they need, this will pay off big in the long run. And while many retail investors are panicking, saying strategy is a Ponzi scheme, we've got banking giant Citibank saying they have a price target of strategy for $485. At the time of this recording, strategy is sitting about $160 a share. So that is quite an upside. Now, does strategy have the resources and the mind share to rewrite the financial system? Can they actually achieve their dream of creating a bank account essentially that pays you nearly 10% annually? It allows you to still hold cash and keep your purchasing power and far outpaces the interest the bank will give you. When any disruptor arrives on the scene, the people in power don't go out without a fight. They're going to do everything in their power, in my opinion, to make sure strategy does not achieve their dream, because they make tons of money by taking your deposits and loaning that out and paying you next to nothing. Strategy is trying to rewrite that game. So with all this bullish news, when will Bitcoin finally break out? Or are we entering the bear market? Well, there's a lot of data to suggest the price is stuck in this specific range, right between $85,000 and $90,000. It keeps ping-ponging around these prices. And there are a number of reasons why this is happening. Part of the reason this is happening is there are a ton of options set to expire on December 26th, the day after Christmas. This post helps explain why the price is stuck in this range. The option dealers are hedging their strategy and collecting a ton of fees while they do it. He goes on to say, when the price is above 88, dealers are long gamma. They sell strength and buy weakness. Volatility is crushed, but if it's below 88,618, dealers flip short gamma. They sell into the downside. Volatility accelerates. Now, if you're not familiar with options, they're basically leverage plays on the Bitcoin price. Calls bet the Bitcoin price will be higher, while puts bet the Bitcoin price will be lower. And when they expire, one of two things happen. They either expire worthless, or they force hedging, buying, or selling in the spot market. Now let's look at how big this is in context to other years. In 2021, the year end was at $6 billion. 22, 2.4, 23, 11 billion, 24, nearly 20 billion, and 25, almost 24 billion. So this line of thought says that the Bitcoin price is essentially trapped until the day after Christmas. Once these options expire, the price can actually move the way it's designed to. It's either going to break to the upside or bleed further down. But for right now, it's basically trapped in that range. There are so many factors right now controlling the Bitcoin price. From political change to the options market to the 4-year cycle belief. I'm of the mind we will eventually break to the upside. The question is when. I will do my absolute best to bring you the best real-time news to help you make the most educated decision you possibly can. So make sure to subscribe and turn those bell notifications on so you can have an edge in the crypto market. I'll see you on the next episode of Around the Block.